Everyone's favorite club competition came to a close just over a month ago and is returning in just 2 weeks. The Champions League is back, so let's take it all in, take stock of the groups, make some predictions, and build up the excitement. And by the way, a big thank you to OneFootball for once again sponsoring this video. To ensure that you are up to date, up to the minute on everything Champions League, then be sure to use the link in the description for a free download on iOS or Android of the OneFootball application. You can custom tailor the newsfeed to the teams, players, and competitions of your choice, such as the Champions League, so you will know everything before all of your friends and family. Scores, news, videos, highlights, match tickers, live scores, even transfer rumor raters if you haven't had enough of transfers as of late. So thanks again to OneFootball. Check out that link in the description for the free download and you'll help out the channel in turn. All right, let's go. Alphabetical order deems Group A is up first, and Bayern Munich, the defending champions, will be up against Atletico Madrid, RB Salzburg, and Lokomotiv Moskva. Let's get Bayern Munich out of the way, as I am definitely not in the minority in thinking they'll top this group. They're absolutely justified winners in taking the crown as the best team in Europe last season, in my opinion, and they have strengthened their squad in the attack, even more so with the signing of Leroy Sané, but they have also lost Thiago Alcantara, which is a massive loss as far as their midfield options go, and their defense is really showing some signs of cracking now. What was a tight defense to see out the season has leaked 4 goals against Hoffenheim, 2 against Dortmund, and 3, I don't know how to use my fingers properly, 3 against Hertha Berlin. Not good. Now they did bring in Bunassar to cover the right back position. That will allow Kimmich to operate almost solely as a midfielder, which is a relief. Choupo-Moting comes in on a free to provide an alternative to Robert Lewandowski alongside Xerxes. Marc Roca and apparently Thiago Dantas coming in on loan for their midfield options. That Thiago deal I do not understand. So there are some reasons to be a bit concerned about Bayern's central midfield and to some extent their defense, but ultimately they have enough quality going forward that I can't see them finishing anywhere but in first place for this group. Atletico Madrid improved their squad as well, but they did indeed lose one of their most important players in Thomas Partey, though in turn they have brought in Lucas Torreira. That's a Simeone player through and through, if ever I've seen one, and if he can recapture his form from his early days at Arsenal, and back at Sampdoria of course, he'll be a great addition to this squad. Luis Suarez adds a lot of potency to their attack, and I look forward to seeing how his relationship with João Felix blossoms as Alvaro Morata is now out of the way. Felix showed on a few occasions this season just what he's capable of, and there's still more to be seen from him. But the old problem of Atletico not firing on offense has come back early doors this season. 2 0-0 draws in a row against Huesca and Villarreal has a very, very familiar feel to the Atletico of last season. As always, Atletico will be tough to break down defensively, their midfield will be strong, and again, the only question mark surrounds how their offense will perform. There's definitely a massive chance that Suarez and Felix click and start scoring in bunches alongside Marcos Llorente and Diego Costa, but there's reason to believe their attack will continue to falter under Simeone as well, just as it had in the past few seasons. That said, I think they'll still manage to get second. I can't see them going in third or fourth. Lokomotiv Moskva have made it into the Champions League group stage for the 3rd season running as they finished second in Russia last term, but also won the Russian Cup, so there's that. Yuri Semin's side did indeed lose one of their top players in Alexei Miranchuk this summer as he signed with Atalanta, so seeing how their attack will be supported without him will be interesting. That said, they did sign Zé Luís from Porto, with Zé Luís having plenty of experience in Russia already via Spartak, so they'll be hoping for a quick adaptation from him. He's already used to the city, so he'll be good in that regard. Atletico and Lokomotiv will be very familiar with each other as well, as they were in the same group last season, with Atletico beating them 2-0 on both occasions. In fact, it was a campaign to forget for Lokomotiv as they absolutely bombed, losing every single match but one and finishing in 4th, bottom of the group. To be fair, they had Juventus, Atletico, and Leverkusen with them, so. In my eyes, they'll be vying for the Europa League spot with RB Salzburg, who are making just their 2nd appearance in the UEFA Champions League. They had a pretty tough draw last season as they were popped into the same group as Liverpool and Napoli, but damn it if they didn't provide some entertaining matches. That 4-3 loss at Anfield was truly something to take in. That huge win in their first game against Genk, whew. Jesse Marsch and the boys dropped into the Europa League and they suffered last season, going out immediately in the round of 32. but I feel for them. They lost two massive components of their attack in Haaland and Minamino. Haaland had scored 28 goals across all competitions by that point. Minamino was a massive aspect of their attack, and now they have lost Hwang Hee-chan to their RB affiliate, RB Leipzig. That said, Daka emerged as a solid goal scorer and has continued this season. He scored 24 last season. He scored a brace against Maccabi Tel Aviv in the Champions League qualifying rounds and will look to rack up many, many more this season. And I think he will. I think he and Salzburg will have another entertaining group stage campaign and finish in third ahead of Lokomotiv. Bayern in first, Atletico second, Salzburg third, Lokomotiv fourth. In Group B, Real Madrid, Shakhtar, Inter, and Borussia Mönchengladbach will do battle, and man, this is perhaps the most exciting group from the outside looking in, for me at least. Literally from the outside looking in as a Benfica supporter. Borussia Mönchengladbach are back in the Champions League for the first time since the 2016-17 season, boasting a solid manager in Marco Rose and some promising talent to boot. They finished in fourth last season after winning their final 3 matches to pip Leverkusen to the UCL spots, with their attack of Thuram, Plea, Hoffman, Stindl, etc., putting in some great performances down the stretch. You can't help but feel like they were capable of more as they dropped some points in puzzling style last season. But they were swinging with the top dogs in the top 3 for a while, and all things considered, they only finished 4 points behind second place Borussia Dortmund and just 1 point behind RB Leipzig, so expectations are high for Mönchengladbach this time as they haven't really lost any important pieces to their squad. Shakhtar Donetsk were beaten at the last by Atalanta and dropped into the Europa League last term, where they made it as far as the semi-finals before Inter Milan absolutely destroyed them. Some very, very pedestrian defending ultimately got the better of them, though for the first 50 to 60 minutes or so of that match, they put up a decent fight. Didn't really generate much in the attack though, which is weird because their free-flowing attack just, well, it didn't show up on that day, whereas usually, and up to that point, it had. So they come back to the Champions League once again as champions of Ukraine, their 13th title, and they didn't really lose anyone in their extremely short off-season. In fact, most importantly for manager Luis Castro, they held on to all of their Samba boys. All of the Brazilians are still there. Marlos, Tyson, Junior Moraes, Maicon, Alan Patrick, etc. They've got them all still. Their attack can hurt teams as they have proven in the last few years. They score in bunches, but their defending can let them down, despite Piatov being a fairly solid keeper still. I think the matches between Gladbach and Shakhtar have the potential to be really entertaining, but standings-wise, I think that Gladbach will finish third with Marco Rose's tactical nous just getting them over the line as far as Europa League qualification goes. Speaking of Shakhtar and losing to Inter Milan will be looking to do one better than last season and qualify for the round of 16 for the first time since 2012. That's right, it will be 9 years should they qualify since Inter had last played in the round of 16 in the Champions League. Insane to think of that. The Milan clubs have been down and out for far too long. Anyways, like I said in my short Serie A preview video, Conte has been backed by the board and now it's time for him to deliver. He was given the signings he wanted to field a very competitive side, and with Lukaku in the kind of form he's been in for Inter, with the addition of Hakimi down the flank and the service he provides, I expect Inter to be even better than last season. Their defense is strong. They kept Skriniar so far. They have depth in all of their midfield positions. They have depth on the flanks. They could maybe use some depth in the striking position, as personally, I'm not that crazy about Lautaro Martinez all of the time, man. One of those strikers that when they're on, they're incredible. But he is very, very forgettable and doesn't add much at all to the team when he's not scoring, in my opinion at least. Carried by Lukaku at times, I find. But yeah, I think Inter will have a solid group stage, and I actually have them finishing ahead of Real Madrid. Real Madrid is an extremely difficult team to get a read on at times. They closed out La Liga in very mature fashion, treating each match like it was the Champions League knockout phase, which Zidane and Real have navigated so expertly in the past. But when it came to actually playing in the Champions League knockout phase this past season, they were dealt with by a Manchester City side that wasn't really at it in the second leg. A couple of gifts from Varane and Real Madrid were out. For the first time in 40 years, Real Madrid didn't sign a single player during the summer transfer window, but as we've spoken of at length, they have a very deep squad, so I don't worry about them in that regard. Add to that, their depth consists of younger players that are starting to really find their feet at Real Madrid, such as Vinicius and Rodrigo. Mendy is in his second season. Odegaard returns and still needs to find where he fits in. Fede Valverde, he's doing great, etc. They will have more than enough to get out of this group. I worry about Real Madrid when Sergio Ramos isn't in the lineup, as he is so important to this team defensively, organizationally, from a leadership and mentality perspective. If the condensed schedule leads to a long layoff for him, let's remember he's aging gracefully but ultimately aging, then that could cause a couple of upsets along the way. But yes, Inter in first, Real in second, Gladbach in third, and Shakhtar in fourth. Tough group. Manchester City, Porto, Marseille, and Olympiacos face off in Group C. Pep and the boys will have their hands full in this one, perhaps their most challenging group in a while, as Olympiacos have proven time and time again that they can cause an upset. Andre Villas-Boas is doing great things with this Marseille side, and Porto, while they have lost some key players, Sergio Conceição will ensure that they are there to fight, and they won't go down without one. That being said, we're talking about City right now, so let's get back to City. Their addition of Ruben Dias will be a welcome one, as they have a combative central defender and another leadership figure amongst their ranks, another solid defender in Nathan Ake, and Ferran Torres early doors has looked like an absolute steal at just 22 million for his signature. Pep seemingly tries to big brain matches way too often for me, especially in the Champions League, trying to be reactive and far too clever with his tactics, when I wish he would just trust the talent he has and trust them to play the high-pressing game that was so successful for them during the 17-18 season. Another thing City struggles with is their laundry list of injuries, but a full-strength City side, even a not-so-full-strength City side, should still top this group, and that's where I have them, in first. They are dying for Sergio Aguero out there. Olympiacos are back once again after finishing in third in their group last term behind Spurs and Bayern. They showed how tricky they can be to overcome, losing just 3-2 to Bayern and earning a 2-2 draw with Tottenham after doing the double over Red Star. A tricky team indeed, and one that lost the services of one of their most potent attackers in Daniel Podence, who was Wolves bound in January. Wolves, by the way, eliminated them from the Europa League after that, steal their man, and kick him out the door. They qualified via the playoff, beating Cyprus's Omonia 2-0 on aggregate. Not overly convincing, but a job done. Hey man, again, I'd take a 2-0 over 2 matches to be in this competition. But anyway, this is one of those groups where second place is a bit of a toss-up between 3 teams, with only one clear favorite to advance to the round of 16, that of course being Manchester City. Porto is an interesting team in that they have lost some very important players in Danilo Pereira and Alex Telles, but still, with Sergio Conceição at the helm, you can't count Porto out. Along with Telles and Danilo, they've also sent Tiki Soares, the aforementioned Zé Luís, Abubakar, and Fabio Silva packing, as they look to recoup some money to help their fragile financial situation, which they have done quite well with. The only question will be is how that affects their performances on the pitch. Oh, and they've also signed Felipe Anderson, this just in, which is a signing I am very envious of. That guy is a baller, and I think he'll do some very good things for Porto. And then there's Marseille. I look forward to Marseille taking on Porto for obvious reasons, as Andre Villas-Boas has done very well to rebuild his reputation in France. Marseille are back in the Champions League for the first time since the 2013-14 season, after they ended up in second place once Ligue 1 had been called off completely last season. A shame, as they were on a 14-match unbeaten run prior to the shutdown, and it would have been interesting to see just how far they could have gone. How far they could have pushed PSG. This season, they started extremely well, but have faltered since their big 1-0 win over PSG in Le Classique. A loss and then 3 draws consecutively isn't the kind of form that would be expected of them, but they haven't been against the easiest of opponents either, so jury's still out there. I think Villas-Boas has a point to prove, and the European stage will help him to do so. If they can start to get those 1-1 results over the line and turn them into 2-1s or 3-1s, they will be a formidable team, in my opinion. They'll be able to get the better of Porto and Olympiacos and do enough to finish in second behind City. That means that Europa will be fought out between Porto and Olympiacos, and for my money, I'm going with Porto on this one. Porto third, Olympiacos fourth, City first, Marseille second, but it's going to be damn close. Group D now, which is made up of Liverpool, Ajax, Atalanta, and Midtjylland. Funnily enough, I became aware of Midtjylland quite a while ago via FIFA, as I randomly selected a team to do a My Player career mode on back in like 2013 or something like that. Well, they have qualified for the Champions League for the first time in their history, a massive achievement for them after they won their 3rd Danish title of the last 6 seasons. Shout out to the Wolves. This season they qualified for the Champions League thanks to a stunning 4-1 victory over Slavia Praha, and the absolute scenes from their qualification was something to behold. Last season, they didn't even manage to qualify for the Europa League, so you can understand the celebrations. The last I remembered them was when they beat Manchester United, I believe it was, in the Europa League back in 2016. And I think that while every team sets out to win, at this point, they'd be happy with third place and a drop into Europa League after the draw they've been handed. But I think they'll actually be at the bottom of the table. I'm sorry. At the opposite end, I see Liverpool topping this group. Sure, they haven't always seemed like the old Liverpool that captured the hearts of many. Let me rephrase that people love to watch due to how entertaining they have been. And while Liverpool clearly struggle when Alisson isn't in goal and makes their defense look very average, like when they lost 7-2 to Aston Villa a few days ago. Below average in that case. I think that will be looked back upon as a red herring in their season. I think any sort of complacency should have been beaten out of them after that. And while their defense may not be as airtight as it was a couple of seasons ago, it will certainly be better than that absolutely horrendous showing by them. Thiago adds a great dimension of control to their midfield, and Mo Salah is looking like the Salah from his first season with the club. Mane, as dangerous as ever, and Minamino and Jota will ensure that Divock Origi and Shaqiri won't feature very often at all for Liverpool, barring any injuries, of course. Now, I do worry about Roberto Firmino a bit. The guy hasn't been himself for quite a long time now. At one point, if he wasn't scoring, at least he was drawing defenders and their attention away from Salah and Mane and setting up plenty of goals, but he hasn't been at it for quite some time now. But if he does find form, I think he's the missing piece to Liverpool being back to one of the scariest teams in Europe going forward. I have them in first. Ajax and Atalanta for second place. Let's talk Ajax first. I feel for them. As a fellow team with a great academy that gets picked apart time and time again, I really can't sympathize with Ajax, who sold Ziyech, Van de Beek, and Serginho Dest this summer alone. Couple that with De Jong and De Ligt leaving last summer. But they brought in a few reinforcements, such as the return of David Klaassen, Antony to play down the right in Ziyech's stead, Kudus Kleiber to fill in for the departed Dest. They have added to their squad as well. Last season, they will have been disappointed in finishing in third in their group and then getting eliminated by Getafe in the Europa League round of 32, a tough way to follow up their semi-final run from the season before. But with all of the players leaving, they still have Erik ten Hag as their very, very competent manager, but it will be tough to finish ahead of Atalanta. And I mean, you all know the love I have for Atalanta by this point. Football, in its purest form, is a means of entertainment for us, and so whenever I want to watch entertaining football, whenever I want to see plenty of goals, I turn to Gianpiero Gasperini and La Dea, Atalanta. And all things considered, Atalanta have been fortunate in being able to hold on to most of their talent that has done so well in the last couple of seasons. Yes, they lost Timothy Castagne to Leicester, but beyond that, no real departures of note. The good old boys are all there still. Remo Freuler and Martin de Roon in the middle of the park. You have Hans Hateboer and Robin Gosens down the flanks, scoring for fun these days. Papu Gomez pulling the strings. Muriel and Zapata leading the line, the Colombian connection. Jim Citi and Taloy and Palomino at the back. I mean, it's the same Atalanta team that I'm sure a lot of you have grown very fond of in the last year or so, with the same attacking style of play. So far, they have scored 13 goals in their first 3 Serie A matches, and they have an opportunity to put things right for their poor start to their Champions League campaign from last season, with the additions of Miranchuk and Sam Lammers for added depth, plus the importance of keeping their squad together, and with the losses that Ajax have suffered to their squad, I see Atalanta finishing in second behind Liverpool. Something tells me they could even pull off first, but I'll put them in second. Ajax third, and Midtjylland in fourth. Group E. Sevilla, Chelsea, Krasnodar, and Rennes make up Group E. Stade Rennais, they're making their Champions League debut, one of 4 teams to do so this go-around, but they'll have to do it without the help of their former keeper Edouard Mendy, who of course left for one of their rivals in this group, Chelsea. Rennes are a very interesting side, as they always seem to have a solid young attacker or two, and they have certainly used their Champions League winnings fairly wisely to fill the voids left by Mendy and most recently Rafinha, who went off to Leeds. They brought in keeper Alfred Gomes, Mendy's Senegal teammate, Dalbert, who was brought in on loan to bolster their back line, as well as Daniele Rugani, and their biggest expenditure was for young Belgian winger Jeremy Doku from Anderlecht, plus Serhu Gurasa is adapting very well, scoring goals as he takes up the striker position. Edouard Camavinga has stuck around as the young prodigy looks mature beyond his years. I mean, Rennes have a very interesting team, a team that could cause major headaches in this group. Krasnodar, they made it through the qualification playoffs as well. Last season, they were actually on track to potentially win the league at one point early on as an outside favorite, but they fell off majorly after the restart and won just 3 of their 8 matches. And this season, they aren't exactly flying domestically, as 4 wins from their opening 10 fixtures has them sitting in 8th of 16 teams, remember. But they dealt with PAOK rather easily in the playoffs, winning 4-2 on aggregate. They like to play an attacking 4-3-3, of which the big Swede Marcus Berg will likely be the point man, flanked by Cabela and Claesson, another Swede. I don't see them finding much joy in this group. I have Krasnodar in last, behind third-placed Stade Rennais. Chelsea did well to get out of their group last season alongside Valencia, and with the major investments they've made this season, the expectations will be high for Frank Lampard. Marina brought him a ton of talent, now he has to get it right on the pitch. I like Chelsea going forward, and of all of their attacking signings this season, Kai Havertz has probably looked like the most immediate fit in my opinion. He's silky smooth on the ball, has decent vision and finishing, very exciting player. Timo Werner's adaptation has taken a bit longer, but once he's up and running, then Chelsea's attack will be quite stunning. They've also improved a bit at the back as they have brought in the extremely experienced Thiago Silva. He had a tough adjustment to the Prem, but he will surely come good at some point. But most importantly, Edouard Mendy gives Chelsea some legitimacy in goal, finally, something they've been lacking since Thibaut Courtois left for Real Madrid in 2018. On top of that, there's no reason to rely on Marcos Alonso anymore, as Ben Chilwell has started really well, providing a threat down the left flank without relinquishing too much of Chelsea's defensive solidity. Plus you have Reece James, who's looked excellent. Tomori is still kicking around. They've got players. And then we have Sevilla, who will no doubt sabotage their UCL progression and try to finish third so they can win the Europa League once again, right? No, it's time for them to take a big boy step and have a deep run in the Champions League now. And I back them to do it if they maybe get a little bit of luck from the draw, if they make it out of this group, of course. But even then, they won't need too much luck from the draw, as Julen Lopetegui and the Sevilla side are extremely well organized. They are horrible to try and break down, and they can be potent in the attack now and then as well. For me, their defense is their strongest asset, with Carlos and Koundé proving they could be difficult to break through, and if you can, you still have to then beat Bono in goal. But with Ocampos, De Jong, sometimes En-Nesyri, depending on how he's feeling on the day, and the attack, they are no slouches going forward either. They did lose Sergio Reguilon, which for me is massive, as he was incredible down that left flank. But in his place, they brought in Marcos Acuna. Not a bad signing, but not Reguilon. Of course, Ivan Rakitic has returned, and he's still got it in some aspects. He, of course, is basically taking over the playmaking duties from Ever Banega, who has gone off to Saudi Arabia to make some money. There's something about Sevilla that makes them hard to bet against in Europe, and under Lopetegui, they're getting better and better. I actually have Sevilla topping this group, with Chelsea in second, Stade Rennais third, and Krasnodar in fourth. Here we are with another very tight group as we see Zenit, Dortmund, Lazio, and Club Brugge go to war. Let's start with the Italians. Lazio's Ciro Immobile will have the opportunity to get one over his former team, as he had a very short-lived stint with Borussia Dortmund 6 years ago now. That sent him on a journey to Sevilla on loan, then back to Torino before landing at Lazio in 2016 and scoring boatloads of goals ever since. Ciro has held up the Lazio attack for a while now through penalties or ridiculous goals from open play. He's very inventive with his finishing. So going forward, I have no real worries in regard to Lazio, as Immobile picks up the slack for everyone around him. Caicedo chips in now and then, as does Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. They'll be looking to Joaquin Correa to provide a bit more going forward, but the midfield and attack for Lazio are good, but it's their defense that has me a bit worried when coming up against teams like Dortmund that can rip and tear in plenty of ways. And speaking of which, Borussia Dortmund, for my money, are the favorites to top this group. I have them making it out of here in first, and barring any major defensive lapses or crazy injuries, quite comfortably as well. They've added even more youth to their team with Jude Bellingham, and the young Englishman has actually featured perhaps more than I would have thought by now. He was slotted into their midfield nicely alongside Gio Reyna, who is really showing just how good he is. I expect him to rack up the assists, continue to rack up the assists. Then of course there's Jadon Sancho down the right, Royce down the left, and Haaland down the middle. A very A truly formidable attack, a solid midfield with Witsel as the general, setting the pace for the side. But again, my worry is in defense, as this team is very top heavy. They seemingly have built this side to win matches 4-3. You know what I mean? Instead of shutting out their opponents. And I love them for it, to be honest with you. Thankfully for them, I think they'll be fine despite their defensive deficiencies. Zenit. They were champions once again in Russia, beating out second place Lokomotiv Moskva by a good 15 points. But I mean, Russian titles have been easy for them. It's in Europe where they haven't exactly excelled lately. Last season, they finished bottom of the Group G, behind Benfica, Lyon, and RB Leipzig, so they didn't exactly cover themselves in glory there. They've added some good talent to their team in a bid to do better than last season, such as Wendell from Sporting and Dejan Lovren from Liverpool to shore up their defense a little bit. And so far, domestically at least, they've been killing it. First place, as per the custom with them, and a plus 15 goal difference. Not bad at all. If they want to get out of this group, then they're going to need to get maximum points against Club Brugge. And if Club Brugge's campaign from last season provides us any insight as to what we can expect this season, then it's not going to be a sure thing for Zenit. Brugge were champions yet again last season in Belgium, and they have, of course, famously gave Real Madrid a big scare as they drew 2-2 at the Bernabeu. They have a very dangerous attacker in Emmanuel Dennis. If you know, you know. Emmanuel Dennis, what a guy. Crepin Diatta provides a major threat down the right flank as well, and you could see them faring much better this season in the UCL than last, given that they don't have to play against Galatasaray, Real Madrid, and PSG. So, with Dortmund finishing first, where are the rest of the teams going? It's a tough call, but I see Brugge and Zenit fighting for third, with the Russians just edging Brugge to the Europa League spot, and Lazio coming in second behind Dortmund. Group G, the group that caught all of the headlines as it tosses up Juve versus Barcelona and in turn Ronaldo versus Messi yet again. We have to make sure we cherish every meeting we have between these two players, as they are certainly numbered. But of course, it goes beyond just Ronaldo versus Messi, beyond Juve versus Barcelona, and we have a couple of very historic teams with them. Dynamo Kiev and Ferencváros from Hungary, one of the early elite footballing nations. Let's start with Dynamo Kiev, who didn't have the best domestic season in 2019-20 as they finished a full 23 points behind Shakhtar and only made it as far as the qualifying rounds in the Europa League. Not great, but I mean, they won the Ukrainian Cup, and this season they have had a fantastic unbeaten start that sees them first after 5 matches, and they breezed past Ghent in the Champions League qualifiers, winning 5-1 on aggregate. And before Ghent, they beat AZ Alkmaar. These teams aren't exactly the bottom feeders of Europe, are they? So, Dynamo Kiev deserve to be here. They've already been through 2 rounds of it, conceding just 1 goal and scoring 7. They aren't going to be pushovers, that's for sure. Ferencváros are playing in the Champions League group stage for the first time since the 95-96 season, and are coming into this one after winning back-to-back Hungarian titles. Last season, they narrowly missed out in the playoffs against Dinamo Zagreb, but this season, they got their revenge, as they beat the Croatian outfit 2-1 before beating Molde on away goals. Oh, and before that, they beat Celtic 2-1 at Celtic Park. Impressive stuff. They haven't lost a match yet this season, both domestically and during their qualification playoffs, and if their domestic form tells us anything, it's that they score plenty of goals. Tokmak Cholnyen is their most potent attacker. I expect them to have a good battle with Dynamo for third, but I can't see them or Dynamo throwing up any upsets to the extent of pipping Juve or Barca into the knockout round. I personally have Dynamo finishing in third and Ferencváros in fourth. Ronald Koeman and Barcelona will host Ferencváros in their first UCL match of the campaign, and there's been a lot of change at Barcelona lately, hasn't there? New coach, new scandals from the board, Messi trying to leave, that's new for sure. Suarez is gone, Pjanic is in for Arthur, fun stuff. I do actually think that Koeman and this Barcelona side have the potential to be better than last season's edition. I know, that's not saying a lot, really, but with Coutinho back and playing fairly well, Trincão adding pace and trickery down the right, Serginho Dest potentially adding more solidity to a right-back position that has been dying for some in recent seasons, there's potential there in this side. Then again, there's also the potential for yet another collapse from this Barcelona side, but it won't happen in the group stage. In fact, with this squad in any other year, getting drawn against Juve would be an auto second place from me, but Juve isn't the finished product yet either. They've had a lot of changes to their squad, the biggest of which being their manager, as Andrea Pirlo is new to this whole management thing, and if his substitutions against Roma were anything to go by, he will have a few growing pains along the way. Naturally, right? I mean, this is his first ever job. That said, the squad itself has improved. Kulusevski is a great addition. Arthur will be good once he's in some sort of form, not to mention Federico Chiesa, who is a fantastic winger in place of Douglas Costa, who's back at Bayern. They also brought in Alvaro Morata to help out their attack. Not my favorite signing, as I don't rate him very highly, but hey, he did some decent things for them last time he was in Turin, so we'll see what happens there. Decent things for them in the Champions League, especially. Defensively, Juve should be good, especially with the return of Merit Demiral. He was just settling in nicely to this team before his massive injury last season, and will add some much-needed youth to their backline as well, as De Ligt hasn't returned to the fold yet. Chiellini and Bonucci, solid defenders at one time, but really moving on in age. I think they have a combined age of 69? Something like that. Ronaldo is still scoring a ton of goals in a variety of ways. Free kicks now, towering headers, shots lashed into the bottom corner, etc. Dybala is still on his way back as well, so I think Juve will do well in this group. Will they finish first? I personally like Barcelona for that first place spot, but Juve will be a close second, Dinamo third, Ferencváros fourth. And finally, Group H. This will be a great group to keep an eye on. The finalists PSG, Manchester United, Leipzig, and Istanbul Başakşehir. Istanbul come into this as the champions of Turkey, as this very young club was only founded in 1990. After plenty of investment in the squad, they have a pretty decent group of players that would love to cause an upset along the way. And with PSG and United in their group, it's definitely a possibility. But seriously, they have a decent squad. Names you'll likely recognize being Demba Ba, Nasser Chadli, good old Raphael, who joined them from Lyon, Martin Skirtle, eh? So yeah, they aren't exactly a team of unknowns, but a team of some past due players, and they have plenty of quality young Turkish players in there as well that will do their best to cause problems throughout their group stage campaign. But if their form in the Champions League matches that of their domestic form thus far, it's going to be a long one for them. After 4 matches in Turkey, they have just 1 point. RB Leipzig were oh so close to making the Champions League final. If only Timo Werner hadn't bounced early, perhaps they wouldn't have seemed so dull in the attack. But Nagelsmann is getting better every year, and with how RB Leipzig has supplemented their already very talented squad, and with how they managed to hold on to, the likes of Upamecano, you'd expect them to have a good Champions League outing once again. Speaking of their attack, they brought in Alexander Sorloth, another free-scoring Norwegian who lit it up in the Turkish Super League last season for Trabzonspor, and will look to do the same in Germany for Leipzig. He's made only 2 substitute appearances as he gets used to his new surroundings, but I expect him to score a fair few this year for Nagelsmann. They have added Hwang Hee-chan, as mentioned earlier, but other than that, they've managed to hold on to most of the key components of this Leipzig squad that got plenty of people excited last season during their Champions League run. They've got it going forward, especially with Emil Forsberg finding some of the form that made him so sought after a few years ago. They've got it in the midfield. You guys know I love me some Marcel Sabitzer, and their defense is good as well. PSG will find themselves with a couple of revenge matches here. First off, they will seek revenge over Manchester United, who unceremoniously bounced them out of the Champions League a few years ago when a last-minute penalty was converted by Marcus Rashford. Then, RB Leipzig will seek to exact revenge upon them as well. I'll say it right off the bat, I have PSG topping this group as they addressed a big problem for me, their midfield, and bringing in Danilo from FC Porto. He'll clean things up very nicely and will allow Marquinhos to take Thiago Silva's place in defense. They also brought in Rafinha and Moise Kean to help going forward, and I'm interested in seeing how the former does. When he was at Juventus a couple of seasons ago, his pace and size were tough to deal with, not to mention his finishing. So when you throw him in the PSG attack alongside Mbappe and Neymar, it'll be interesting to see how he does, especially with Icardi waiting in the ranks as well. Or I guess Moise Kean will be waiting in the ranks, in case Icardi puts in a few stinkers, as he is wont to do. PSG show that their defense is very capable, but the loss of Thiago Silva, the organizer of said defense, could be huge, so to be determined on that one. And then we have Manchester United, who are starting to falter once again under Ali. I don't know what to say about this United side anymore. It's the owner's fault, it's the player's fault, and it has to be Ollie's fault too. The man is not faultless, that is for sure. They did make some investment. Edinson Cavani provides striker cover, though his injury record and age make that move smell a bit of Falcao at United. Though I am a huge fan of Cavani's, and I wish him well there. Donny van de Beek was brought in for added depth to their midfield. Alex Telles is actually a solid signing in my opinion, and I reckon he'll overtake Shaw soon because Shaw is either sleepwalking or putting in a blinder or injured, you know? One of the three. They still could use a center back because Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, and Eric Bailly. Big yikes from me. Plenty of mistakes waiting to happen there. There's calls for a need of a right winger, but I mean, they have Greenwood, so give him a shot. Though I agree that some depth could be used there. That's why the Van de Beek transfer confuses me a bit. Could have used a winger instead of another central midfielder, but whatever. They put all their eggs in the Sancho basket and didn't cough up the right figures for it time and time again, then invested in another central midfielder. I don't understand. United looked like their problems had been fixed when Bruno Fernandes arrived in January, but the problems prior to his arrival are starting to creep into the side once again. They're very poor defensively. De Gea will make some game-saving saves now and then, but will allow a weak goal now and then as well. The attack can go completely missing at times, as scoring from open play becomes a problem yet again for them. If this was the United of February through March, then I would be backing them to move on. But I just think that RB Leipzig and PSG are ahead of them in most categories at the moment. Better managers, better defenses, better attacks. I think the organization of RB Leipzig, on top of United's struggles to score and an over-reliance on penalties, will make it that PSG come out in first, RB Leipzig in second, United in third, and Istanbul in fourth. We'll see. It will be interesting, as United have shown in the past that they can be a good side, but they are hard to trust in their current state. Alright guys, so these are my picks. Be sure you leave yours down below as well so I can get a temperature of who you guys think will succeed and if there will be any shocks in this edition. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you are still watching at this point, then be sure to drop a like for me. I think this might be my longest video ever, but we'll see. My name is Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and we'll hopefully catch you in the next video. Ciao!